A new lawsuit targets the state of Alabama, where the top three courts in the state are all white, folks. That's right. The Court of Civil Appeals, the Court of Criminal Appeals, have not elected an African-American on that bench. Also, the Alabama Supreme Court. Lawsuit is being led by, of course, a lawyers committee for civil rights under the law, as well as the Alabama NAACP. Let's talk about this right now. Of course, we have, and don't forget, in Alabama, 25% of the folks who live there are African-American. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Terry Sewell in studio right now. We also, of course, Kristen Clark is with us on the panel anyway, and her organization happened to be the one involved in filing the suit as well. And joining us via Skype, we have Reverend Curtis Travis, who's one of the plaintiffs in the case. Congresswoman Sewell, I want to start with you. How is the system set up in Alabama as to why you and others say black folks have been excluded?
You know, our state system, we're only one of 5 states that still have partisan elections for our judges, and statewide elections for our judges, and which really puts African-American voters at a disadvantage. We feel we're being diluted. You know, voter disenfranchisement takes lots of different forms, including voter dilution. And so I am very pleased to support this lawsuit and really feel that the fact that the 2 appellate courts, both the appeals court as for criminal and civil, have never had an African-American judge, and the Supreme Court has only had 2 in its history. Both were appointed initially and elected after that, and then lost their second election. So just really, it's been, to me, it's been a stark comparison as to how we go about electing our judges.
So, Christian, the judges are statewide, but you have other statewide offices as well. How will you win, if you will, here? Because in many other states, we have statewide elections, and you still have very few African Americans who are elected statewide office.
In Alabama, voting discrimination is alive and well. And when we were investigating this case and looking at the record, what we found is that it's been more than 20 years since an African American has been elected to any of the 3 highest courts in the state of Alabama. Voting is racially polarized. White voters do not support candidates who are backed by African American voters. And voting discrimination is rampant across the state. We're at a moment where everybody's talking about how do we repair our justice system? How do we restore the public's confidence in our courts? And we think that we will prevail because the facts are so bad here, and that we're going to end up with a judiciary that better reflects the racial diversity that we see today in Alabama.
Reverend Travis?
Yes, good morning.
Again, why did you decide to be one of the plaintiffs in this case?
Well, having been raised here in the South and in Alabama, Tuscaloosa, residing the last few years, but raised in Hale County, part of the black better community, you know, just seeing injustice, you know, that continue to prevail in our, and, you know, and when we realized that in this case here where you have, you know, we have more women, we have more minorities, we have more in our legal community, then when you look at our court system, when you go forward into that point, and in particular dealing with the appellate court, which we deal with the review, you have people there who do not have the empathy, and which is what it is really about. It's not about the law specific, but it's the empathy of the law, that we don't have people who would bring that and share their life experience to make sure that our justice is being given. And when you see people who have sit on death row and have been in prison for years without it, who clearly were innocent and who have been released, and I think when you look at some of the work that Brian Stevens has done, you know we need to make sure that our court system is allowed to have people there who understand and hear the cases and understand that, hey, you know, based upon the way I was raised and being a pastor, I think I would easily say, you know, and when I talk about the empathy, I think if you have attended worship service in a black church versus worship service in a white church, you will see the difference. And that's nothing against God and everything, but it does shows the difference that way we go about doing things, and that imparts upon how decisions are made.
Congresswoman Sewell, what has been the response so far from the state?
Well, the state has had no comment thus far. The lawsuit was filed yesterday. I understand that the Attorney General offered no comment, and to my knowledge, the Secretary of State has not either. Look, I think that it's important to have lawsuits like this. I am very pleased that we're using the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Section 2, in order to bring this kind of lawsuit. I think that challenging how we do at-large elections on judiciary selection is really important, especially since Alabama, not only does it at large, but it's partisan. You have to decide if you're a Republican or a Democrat. And we're one of 5 states that still have that. And so I think that it's movements like this, mobilizations by NAACP and individuals like Curtis Travis and the Lawyers Committee, that's so critically important in making sure that our judiciary system reflects the broader representation of Alabama.
All right. Well, y'all surely keep us up to date in terms of what happens with the suit as well. I look forward to seeing you next week at Congressional Black Caucus.
Absolutely. I'm doing my panel this time on diversity in the intelligence community. So we're fighting on all fronts, and it's on Thursday. So
looking forward to it.
Yep.
Folks, coming up next is What the Hell Thursday. It's time for some crazy stories. It is 8 before top of the hour. News 1 9 TV 1.